Today on Jones Knows, we're going to rip out this old glue-down carpet and install some Lifeproof flooring in this man cave. We're going to give you some helpful tips and advice along the way. I'm not a handyman or jack of all trades, I'm just a master of flooring. Been doing this for over 20 years and I'm going to show you how to do it properly. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the video, and as always, please subscribe to see more videos like this.
It's so beautiful, you and me, we meant to be.
So we're going to be installing it here directly over the concrete. According to the manufacturer's specifications, it does not require a 6mm poly, unlike NUCORE and a lot of their competitors. So part of me wants to put the poly down, but I'm going to do this textbook as far as what the manufacturer recommends. So we're going without the poly, and here we go. Let's do this. Because this is going to be my secret weapon. Alright, let's show you how we install some random width Lifeproof vinyl. We're working in a man cave today. They used to have a glue down carpet in here, so this is going to be a huge improvement. You notice when we get started, we have 3 different size pieces. We're going to use one of each pattern, the large, the medium, and the small. Now, the key here in getting started is even. You have to make sure that those first 2 boards where they come together on the end joint is perfectly even. You see, even me, after 20 years, I had to work on that first end joint on that wide plank because I was off just by a 1/16th, and my second row wasn't going to lock in properly. So you notice I'm working with a rubber mallet and a piece of scrap flooring as a tapping block. You don't want to use a real tapping block because you can damage the edges of that flooring. So when I use that scrap board, I'm putting a factory edge up against a factory edge, less chance to chip the edges of those planks. I've been doing this for 20 years, and little tricks like that will give you a better result in the end. You won't have any damage or chip boards. Now, that's me making a cut. You notice I just score the board and I snap it over my knee. If you're not feeling like damaging your knees, then you can also use a miter saw, table saw, jigsaw, or any kind of saw you want for that matter to make your cuts with. But the razor knife is pretty accurate, and it doesn't take a lot of pressure to break the boards. You know, the key here to a good installation is to stagger the colors quite a bit. I use the analogy of shuffling the boards like a deck of cards. I'm working from probably 5 boxes here, and we've mixed them all up, and I want to go light, dark, light, dark. I don't want it to be patchy. So we're coming to the end of each row. This is real simple. You don't need a tape measure or anything like that. You just need to take a plank that you're going to use to end the row with, flip the board backwards, mark where the previous board ends, and that's where you make your cut. Just reverse the board, mark it, score it, snap it, and install it. Now the piece that's left over is what you're going to use to start the next row with. This eliminates waste, and it also gives you a natural look by having a different size board every time. We don't want to start our rows with the same size pieces over and over again, because then our joints line up across the floor and it's an unnatural look. So we just want to make sure we are always using our waist, and that's the best way to do it, is to take the fall off of your end cut and use that to start your next row with. So we have our door casing coming up, our jam cut. I'm just going to use an oscillating saw, and I'm going to run it right over the top of a flooring board so that I know that I'm cutting it the exact height. And whenever I'm dealing with a door jam or door casing, it's always easier if you start your rows at the door casing instead of trying to lay the floor from the other side of the room and have your last board in the row be the door casing. You want the first board in that row to be your door casing. It makes it a lot easier than trying to force it under or trying to end the row there. So I had someone ask me a question the other day about the door casing cut, and if you have to cut the tongue off or how you get it under a door casing. Well, the simplest thing to do is start at the door casing and it makes things a lot easier. We have a large computer desk still in the room here with some of that glue down carpet we've already removed still under it. So in a second here, we're going to do what I call a furniture shift and shift the piece of furniture onto the completed floor, and then we can remove the rest of the carpet and then continue laying floor again. It's the easiest way to deal with big pieces of furniture that doesn't necessarily have to be taken out of the room. You can just shift it to one side of the room, complete the floor on the empty side of the room, and then once you've completed that floor, move your furniture onto the completed floor, shift your furniture over there, and then lay the rest of the floor. Now, a lot of times when I put the furniture onto the completed floor, I like to put protection felt on the feet of all the furniture. The felt will protect your floor from getting damaged. Luckily, this desk had rubber feet and is not too heavy. But if it were a heavy bedroom set or entertainment center, I always recommend, and I usually put felt on there myself actually when I move it onto the completed floor. And once I catwalk that desk up onto the floor, it's time to get that glue down carpet up. And I gave it the old college try, and I thought to myself, well, you know what, let me get one of my young, strong sons in here, and they'll make a lot easier work of this than dear old dad here. I'm helping him though. Look at that, I cut it for him, and look at that, I even carry it out of the room. But that glue down carpet, it doesn't play around. It's down good, and it's nice to be young. He made quick work of it, and got it out of there, and I'm back and installing floor again. And I'm on the home stretch now. Once the floor is done, I still have the base to go though. So we're doing a nice 5-inch base in a few minutes. But back to the floor. Only a few rows left. It was a nice floor to work with. It went in pretty good. It didn't have any problems. It's a pretty simple room. I think the whole thing took a little under 2 hours. Probably by the time I finished the base, we're probably had 3 hours in. Probably could have got my sons in here. They're working on the stair portion of the job. We probably could have got the whole job done in less than an hour. But we're coming down to the last row, and we're going to show you how we mark that in a second. In the meantime, let's do a little recap here. Some of the keys to success on this installation are making sure that we blend the boards properly. Remember, shuffle your boards like a deck of cards, dark light, dark light. You want to work from multiple boxes to really have that effect work the best. And then no tapping blocks. If you have to hit the edge of the board, make sure you just cut a scrap piece of wood and use that as your tapping block. If you have any door jambs, we're going to cut them with an oscillating saw. But we also want to make sure that we start our flooring from the door jamb, if at all possible. We also want to make sure we leave a 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch expansion around the perimeter of the room. Vinyl doesn't need the same amount of expansion as wood and laminate, but it still needs a little bit of an expansion gap. And with this particular product, it doesn't require any kind of 6mm poly or vapor barrier underneath of it. I hear a lot of times people want to put extra padding under these floating floors that already have the attached padding, and you can't do that unless you don't mind voiding your warranty, because when you start adding extra padding and stuff that is not intended to be there, these manufacturers will void your warranties when you do that. So just keep that in mind. I always recommend reading the directions through and through from start to finish. Even myself, after doing flooring for over 20 years, I still will read the directions on products just to make sure, because manufacturers are always changing rules and adding things, the ways they want their products installed and the way you're supposed to install it all the time. So you never want to take anything for granted. If you have any questions about anything you've seen in this video, or anything even related to flooring, I've been doing it for 23 years, and there isn't too much about wood, laminate, and vinyl and stairs that I don't know. Be happy to answer it for you, and I'm usually pretty quick to respond to questions. Well, we're working our way down to the last row. Now I'm going to show you how to mark the last row. It's pretty simple. You don't need a tape measure or anything like that. But you just want to get your floor finished right up to the point where you have just your final row to go. Now I'm going to cut this rip with a table saw. I'm going to show you how we cut it on a table saw. But you can, in fact, cut it by scoring and snapping the boards. If you are going to score and snap it, I'd suggest maybe even using the help of a pair of pliers. And whenever you have to snap off a smaller piece on these boards, especially across the board, not like on the end cut, but on a long cut, pliers are usually pretty helpful. It's another little tip there. I use it around door jambs, and all my door jamb cuts, a lot of times I'll score it and use a pair of pliers to break the piece off with. The same thing applies for rips and any kind of pieces like that you want to score and snap, where maybe you can't bend it in your hand, and it's just too hard to break. So the pliers are pretty helpful. So here we go with our last row. We're going to take a board that we want to use for the final row and place it directly over the previous row, and then we'll take a marking board and place it up against the wall and just draw a line down on the board that we want to cut. So that board that we place along the wall will show us exactly where we need to mark the board. And then, of course, I'm marking the back of the board, so as when I go out to the saw, I know which board goes where when I come back in the house. So, like I said, I'm making my cuts on a table saw, but you could use a blade to make that cut with, a knife. And then, of course, when we put the final row in, it's just a matter of, just like the rest of the floor, but I'll use a pry bar up against the wall to help snap the board into place. The pry bar gives it enough pressure, and then you want to push down on the board, of course, to engage the locking system. Sometimes those smaller pieces don't want to lock down properly, but if you push down on them or hit them down with a mallet, they will lock into place. Well, the floor is all done now. We'll show you some pictures in a few minutes, but we still have some base to do. Today we're doing a 5180 profile 5 1/4 inch MDF baseboard. Unfortunately, we have concrete walls around the perimeter on 3 of the walls, so we have to glue them in. I'm gonna glue them with some construction adhesive, and then I'm gonna place some pergo boxes from the other part of the job up against them as weight to hold them in place until the glue dries. And we're gonna actually nail the corners, though, on the outside corners. That's a little trick that we do there to hold them together. And luckily one wall is drywall and we can nail it in. And once we get it nailed in, it's time to put the desk back and wrap this project up. I hope you enjoyed watching us. I think I have a few more things to say here from the job site. Wow, so this Lifeproof came out really, really good. I'm really excited. I can't wait for the homeowner to see it. I've already sent them pictures. Picture won't truly do it justice. You have to see it in person. I'm super happy. I know the client will be even happier. So it's a cool product. I like the 3 different widths the large, medium, and small boards give it a lot of character. Plus, there's a ton of variation from light to dark, which really make it stand out. So overall, it's a great product. I don't know if I'd recommend it for a DIY person over some of the easier products on the market, but it definitely looks good. The 5-inch 5180 5¼ baseboard really finished it off nicely as well. Obviously, the base still needs to be painted and caulked, but hey, that's for another trade. We are carpenters, not painters. Thanks for watching. Please tune in to some of our other videos. We do a lot of vinyl and laminate and wood installation and reviews, as well as cleaning product reviews, and of course, our travel videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.